Hey everyone, Cursed Deck Builder here, making our way to 10,000 decks assisted, and here we are with Nine Fingers Keen, a land, but mainly gate, combo or value deck. Let's call it a Gate Kindred deck. This deck comes to us from longtime supporter Jesse. Thank you, Jesse, for sending this deck. It's a deck I saw Jesse play a few times, and I did really enjoy it. However, there was an incident where the deck got stepped on, I believe, and Jace the Mind Sculptor that was in the deck was damaged. And the heartbreak was perhaps a bit too much, and therefore the deck was put on hold for a while. However, I do really like this deck, and I have a lot of additions to put in, so let's get right to it. If you'd like to take a look at the deck list we're talking about today, or if you'd like to submit your own deck list to me so that I can make a video assisting your deck, please check the video description down below. So who is Nine Fingers Keen, and why are they our Gate Commander? Nine Fingers Keen is a 4-mana human rogue in Sultai, that's black, green, blue. They are 4/4 with Menace, they have Ward, pay 9 life, and then they have this ability. Whenever Nine Fingers Keen deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 9 cards of your library. You may put a gate card from among them onto the battlefield. Then, if you control 9 or more gates, you put the rest of those cards into your hand. Otherwise, the cards go on the bottom of your library. Now, this is a very strong commander, but I think they feel clunky, so I don't see them a lot, but I think they're very powerful. The main idea here is you're playing a land-based gate deck, and once Nine Fingers Keen connects and you have 9 gates, all of a sudden you draw, 8 cards? I think that's insanely powerful. This also works notably, because you put the gate from your hand from the revealed cards first, so once you hit 8 gates, Nine Fingers Keen will draw you 9 cards as long as there is a 9th, or 8 cards I should say, as long as there is a 9th gate in that revealed pile, which it should, or you don't actually even need to reveal it, you just look at it. That's just so strong. Obviously a 4/4 with Menace isn't bad, Ward, pay 9 life is really fun, and generally the fact that this enables your strategy by getting attacks here and there, I think this is a very strong commander, and very powerful in this archetype. I think gate decks, much like any other deck where you have as many colors, you potentially have 5 colors, sometimes commanders with lower amounts of colors get overlooked, but these are always the commanders I love because there's an actual restriction to play them, and the deck itself is a lot of fun. So looking at the curve makes sense. This is a land deck, and the majority of our spells are land-based spells, and therefore we have a lot of things we can do with them. So we're playing kind of like a combo control deck. I actually didn't read Jesse's message. Jesse says they're looking for consistency, winning with Maze's End combo, and they have a budget of $100 to improve. Now, I'm not 100% sure if I fit within it, but I'm pretty sure we should. Well, we'll see what goes through. But let's look at the deck itself coming back here, and let's see what adjustments we can make. I wonder if 38 lands is a bit low for a land deck. I think traditionally land decks are like 40 lands, but we're very low on mana rocks, so it does fit. I do wonder, because it's gates, maybe it's not as important to hit that threshold of 41, 42 lands. I would still probably like to go to 40, just because a lot of our deck is based off lands. Looking at a few things, I think most of the deck makes a lot of sense, but there's a few things I just really want to pick at. Let's go in no particular order, starting with enchantments. So Way of the Thief feels really clunky. It is a 4-mana unblockability spell, or aura I should say, and it only functions if you have a gate out. It is an aura, so it'll fall off if our commander leaves play, and not that it's always going to be unblockable, it's just a little clunky. So I would like this out. I think I'm going to suggest at least 1 card that does this but better. I find this just to be clunky outside of the flavor win of using these gate cards. After which, Wilderness Reclamation, I'm kind of suspicious of, actually. I feel like this feels good, but I don't know if it's actually good. I don't think we have enough meaningful mana sinks. I think this is good with like 1 or 2 cards in the deck, but otherwise not very good. So I feel like this is a card that just is clunkier than it seems. So I think I would like to cut that as well. Going into our artifacts, I think Swiftfoot Boots just doesn't need to be here. I recognize the Hexproof and Haste are good with Nine Fingers Keen, but I think wholly just kind of unnecessary. This is a card that's just bad in the deck otherwise, and I think it could be very easily cut. Otherwise, even Arcane Signet feels just not good, I would say. I just don't think we need this. We're so deep in lands that this just opens us up to artifact removal or ramp that can be removed by mass artifact removal. And I think that's just kind of unnecessary. I do have an artifact at least that I want to add in, but I just feel it's a lot more pointed than this. And I feel like this is just a bit unnecessary. Whereas we have so many, we're playing Explore, Farseek, Nature's Lore. All of these cards are just really, really good growth spiral for giving us a turn 3 Nine Fingers. So we don't really need Arcane Signet to improve that. Obviously Soul Ring will keep because of how strong it is, but these other two, I feel like they could be cut. In our instance, I feel like we're kind of all over the place. So let's see what we've got. Going backwards, we have both Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise, and I don't think I want to play both, or honestly either. I just don't think we have a meaningful way to fill up our graveyard outside of just casting our spells fairly, and I don't really think we can take advantage of this card very, very well. I think if I'd keep one, it'd be Treasure Cruise, because I feel like the ceiling of it is much, much higher, so it's much more worthwhile playing this card. But we don't really have card draw problems or mana problems, so Dig Through Time just feels a little clunky, and I think I would take that out. There is going to be something you'll notice, as I'm going to be very much so pressuring the blue cards, because blue is like the hardest. Like, if you notice, the majority of our deck is green and then black and then blue. So by removing as much of the blue costs or unnecessary blue costs will make our mana easier to work with. Sultai Charm feels really, really clunky. Spoilers, I'm just going to say play Beast Within. It's just cleaner, it'll do the job. I think the one thing Sultai Charm has is the draw 2, then discard a card, but at 3 colors and 3 mana, I think that's too much. I really don't think you need this, and I think this could be easily cut. Putrefy, likewise, is easily replaced with Beast Within, but I'm also going to suggest, I believe, Nature's Claim to just go in that direction, and I think we'll be doing really well with that. This is just too much mana. Too much mana. We don't need to worry about this much. Ooh, I'm sorry, that was Discord. I shall mute my computer. After that, Croson Grip, I think it's fine. Like, once again, we have so many 3 mana removal spells, but I think as the last one, because of the split second, I think that's fine. I'm sure there's a few things you want to deal with, and that's okay. Infernal Grasp is fine. Heroic Intervention is really interesting to me. I recognize it protects our lands, but I think the bigger thing is rebuying our lands to get them from the graveyard and exile, whereas Heroic Intervention is preventative. I think it's fine. It's noticeable to me that I don't think this is like the best thing in the deck. Growth Spiral is great. Go for the Throat and Doomblade, I think this is unnecessary. We're playing too much removal. We don't need this level of removal. We have board clears and the like to deal with stuff, so I think cutting both of these is pretty easy. Counterspell, I really think this should be Arcane Denial, because it's easier for us to cast, and it works more in the deck's theme of being the proactive combo deck, so that we can counter something, draw back up the next turn, and just kind of be neutral. While getting rid of something that could really stop us or prevent someone else from winning. So that would be my opinion. Assassin's Trophy, Dark Ritual, these are all great. All right. Looking at sorceries, I generally like them. I have very few to say. I think Reshape the Earth feels a bit overkill, but I don't know enough about that to take this out. I just think it's really hard to believe you'll be in a situation where you can cast this, where you don't have the necessary lands in play, but I could be wrong about that. For me, it feels win more, and because our win condition is Maze's End, unless we're playing some key cards, which I will be suggesting, it's still clunky to win from that point. This is 9 plus an additional 3. But if your lands come in untapped, that's fine. So it's not terrible, but like I think we can do a little better at a lower cost card, and I will be suggesting a few of those ramp cards for that reason. Urban Evolution likewise feels just a little cute. I would rather these two abilities to be divided. I don't want the draw card and the additional land this turn to be combined, and I will be giving you enough cards that do either better that I personally don't want to play this, but this isn't like the craziest card to play. Let's see. Looking through creatures, I have a few of them really catch my eye. Baleful Strix, I think, is just too cute. I understand that it's a defensive creature. It replaces itself. I really think this should be the Snake Elf. What is that card? I will have to find it. I can't remember what it's called, and therefore I will look it up in my cube because I know that's where it is. It is... My goodness, the weight is palpable. Simic. Coiling Oracle. My goodness, it took me so much time to remember what that was. Coiling Oracle, I think, will just do better because it can put a land in tapped and otherwise draws you a card. It doesn't have Flying Death Touch, but this just feels like a weird inclusion, so I think it's very easy to cut. Likewise, Fog Bank. I really don't think this is going to stop anything meaningful. If people are hating you out of the game, Fog Bank is going to stop one attack, or one attacker, and I just don't think that's really good. I think I have something better I'd like to suggest, and we'll go from there to begin with. All right, let's see the other creatures. I feel like District Guide is a little cute, but maybe not the worst. I think we're gonna have better ramps, so I think this can be cut pretty easily. Likewise, Solemn Simulacrum, we're just gonna have better ramp. I just think it's unnecessary to be playing this because it is clunky, though it's doing something we really want. The fact it can't grab a gate is just okay. I really do like the District Guide more than the Solemn Simulacrum. Tatiova feels like overkill, but that's not a bad thing. I think this is a great card in the deck. It just does feel a little like overkill. I think at this point, this deck is getting really strong. And Acidic Slime, I think, is unnecessary. I think Beast Within is going to do the job so much better. This is 5 mana, and you get to keep the 2/2 Death Touch, but I really don't think that's going to stop a lot of attacks. We want to be kind of more proactive, and Acidic Slime is just a little too much mana for me to consider it that proactive. All right, so I have a lot of cards to suggest, so let's get right into it. First and foremost, we have Navigation Orb. This is a kind of slow Kodama's Reach, but the really nice thing is that it grabs 2 gates and it puts one of them tapped. Now, this is probably the weakest card I'm going to suggest, but I did want to suggest it because it popped out as being a very specific card that is good in the archetype. If you don't play this, maybe I shouldn't have made it the first card, but if you don't play this, I think it's fine. Let's get to some real cards, though. Let's start with Spelunking. I think Spelunking is really strong. Obviously, you might play a few caves, but you won't play a lot. For a 3 mana Explore with the permanent lands you control enter the battlefield untapped, you're going to be very happy with the results. It is just a very strong card. Speaking of caves, I think Echoing Deeps is something that I immediately thought of when I saw that first card of the Spelunking, because this is just a bit of redundancy, as it can come into play as a copy of Maze's End or a necessary guild gate, or a gate, I should just say. And I think that's really cool. I am surprised that this card is worth so little. I guess the combo decks just haven't figured it out. That's good for you. That makes this a very cheap addition. After that, as mentioned before, Nature's Claim is just a really strong card in your colors. One of your biggest enemies is Blood Moon and or Back to Basics, and this deals with both. And it is a very strong card, so you'll be happy playing with it, especially at 1 mana. Then I'm doing this kind of in CMC cost, so Night's Whisper and Read the Bones. These are generally cards that I like to suggest in terms of black and draw. I know you're playing, where are we? Painful Truths, but I don't think it hurts so much. Like, you can see we have Ponder and Preordain here, and I just don't think they're as good, right? These just are cantrips with the pseudo addition of, looking deeper or scrying in a way, whereas because of the sheer number, I should have said this in looking over the deck, but the sheer number of searches kind of makes scry and ordering really, really bad. And then beyond that, I just rather, like, mana's not a problem for you, so I'd rather the cards that just straight up draws cards. Night's Whisper is good. Read the Bones, I like equally to Painful Truths, but, they obviously have some pluses or minus, so that it's kind of a side grade depending on which one you want, or if you want to play both. Just very, very strong cards. Very good late game to draw into them because they let you dig very, very deep, especially Read the Bones, and continue going off. Then, as mentioned before, Beast Within. All right, so let's talk about some proactive... Actually, I have one more removal card. Let's do that first. It's Culling Ritual. I think Culling Ritual is notable because I really do believe, unless I'm mistaken, we are very, very low on 2-mana permanents, non-land permanents. We're very low on them. And therefore, I think Culling Ritual is particularly strong in this deck. It's very cheap, and I think it's going to be very good against token strategies, very good against early opponents' mana rocks, and in a lot of situations, I believe you're going to be able to cast this and immediately use the mana to play a ramp spell of some kind, so it's not like you've wasted your turn. And I think that's going to be particularly powerful. You can also, you can't use this mana fully to pay for your commander because you need a blue, but I think it's particularly good. This is one of those cards that I am very, very surprised has never been used competitively. There must be something about setting up your own board of like eggs and then destroying them all directly for mana, but I guess that doesn't exist. Smarter minds than me have not figured it out. All right, let's look at some ramp. Something that I think you can play for sure is Eureka Moment, just another draw card that comes along with the Explore effect, nice and clean, nothing too tricky. I just like it here as another card. We might be approaching a point where there's just too many card draws, but I think it's fine. Another one that I prefer, like talking about those 9-mana cards that we had back here, Reshape the Earth, I generally prefer something like Hour of Promise, where it's 5 mana, so it is 4 mana less, and just puts 2 lands into play right away of any choice. Don't worry about the desert stuff, you'll never trigger it, but 5 for 2 is just very, very strong and can immediately get you into some really good positions, or, set up the attack with 9 fingers so that you can draw the 9 cards, or the 8 cards, I should say. Another one that I think is very, very good, and definitely the one I think I recommend the most, is Open the Way. So Open the Way is a really, really particular one. In Commander, X cannot be higher than 4 unless players are out of the game. So for 6 mana, you reveal the top 4 lands off your deck, and you put them into play. Now, this is kind of a tricky card in a lot of different decks because you have no control over the lands you get. But in your deck, with the sheer number of gates, I think this is really, really good. I think you're guaranteed to get like maybe 2 gates at least this way. And plus, that's not even just counting the fact that straight up it is, 4 lands into play for 6 mana, which is very, very powerful. So I do really like this card, and I think this is a very good addition. After this, going into our other options for recursion, Conduit of Worlds feels like the strongest option here, right? Straight up at 4 mana, it lets you play your lands back from your graveyard. I very much so like that. But then with its tap ability, you can cast a permanent from your graveyard. Now this one's specific. there's not a crazy amount of permanents you want to be casting. We've got these 17, and then we have a few enchantments here and there, but I think some of them are going to be worthwhile. Some artifacts being able to bring back the expedition maps sometimes can be good, even if it takes up all your mana for the turn. Or like it takes up your only spell for the turn. I think it's still worthwhile, and there could be scenarios where you let 9-Finger Keen die in order to get them back. If you don't want this, what is it? The other one, this is Conduit of Worlds. What's the other one? A Crucible of Worlds, right? Yeah, Crucible of Worlds is also an option. Obviously, there's a big change in cost for it. Or Ranumap. Ramunap, sorry, I always have that backwards. Ramunap Excavator, also at a few bucks, will do the same thing. So these are all options. Let's keep it on this one because I do think this is probably the strongest one at the lowest mana, but the Conduit of Worlds can be pretty good. All right, so going into a few other options, I think something that when it comes to some enchantments, two of them that caught my eye were Sword Coast Sailor. This one's interesting to me. So this is commander creatures you own have. Whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, this creature can't be blocked this turn. What does that mean? That means no matter what, 9-Fingers can attack, is unblockable to one opponent. So here's the thing. You don't care which opponent you hit. You just want the hit trigger, right? So Sword Coast Sailor is very, very good at enabling that for you, right? That it lets you kind of get that attack in, get that trigger in, whether it be early to get another gate in onto the battlefield, or better late where you can guarantee that draw 9 or draw 8. And I think it's just way, way better than Way of the Thief. Not only do we lose our commander, this only works on our commander, so we don't care if this goes away. Like our commander is like, it won't fall off, right? We don't care if it's only good when our commander's out, and when our commander is out, it's very, very good, right? It doesn't fall off or anything. It's just an enchantment. So I think this is the strongest version of the unblockability. The other option that we had that I didn't speak of is Alpha Authority, which is known classically as something that can make menace creatures unblockable and give hexproof. I think this is fine. I don't really care for it either way. I think it's funny that the hexproof turns off the ward, so we're actually turning off a part of our commander, but at the same time, who cares? I do think Sword Coast Sailor is better, but I don't think you're going to be punished too much for playing both. Then over here we have Propaganda. We had a lot of kind of deal with our opponents or put up walls like Fogbank. I think Propaganda is just better. I think you're just going to be happier with it. It is going to tax our opponents. It makes it very, very annoying to attack you pretty easily. So with that in mind, I think this is the one I would play as a protection spell. No Mercy obviously is very strong, but when you combine the two, they become a very, very good, what do you call it? To convince your opponents not to attack you. I can't think of the word right now. Let's say a repellent from attacks. So I think that's very, very strong. Notably, though I put it away, Crucible of Worlds is really good for reanimating either Propaganda or No Mercy to keep you protected, which is very, very nice. Now we're coming to the last few cards I want to name. And I've left these last 3 cards because one of them is expensive and 2 of them are kind of niche. So I wanted to put them in here, but they were my last additions. So the expensive card, if we have that budget and you're willing to spend it, I think Field of the Dead is the best thing to spend that budget on. This is a very, very good alternative win con for your deck. It works just like Maze's End in the terms that it is a land. So all the things that makes your lands good in this deck work with Field of the Dead. All of the things that bring your lands back or make copies of your lands also work in this deck. So I'm a really, really big fan of this being an alternative finisher for the deck. Get this out, just continue doing what you're doing, and you will just make an army of tutus. Very, very powerful, very, very strong, and very, very hard to stop. I completely forgot that this was banned in Modern, rightfully so, but a very, very strong card, and I do think this would be, if we're using any of that budget, here is where I'd like to use it. Then something a bit smaller, because I like putting in here, is Profane Tutor. I don't remember seeing Jesse use tutors often, and this is the one I think I would suggest. Very, very good to put it out on suspend and wait for it and get whatever card. Either, you know, we have a lot of tutoring for our lands, but some of our non-land cards are harder to grab, or just an extra way to grab a land card, to grab, obviously, Maze's End. As interestingly enough, it is not itself a gate, which I think is very, very funny, but you know, these cards that allow us to grab the cards we need, but also just like the setup, right? Something I think some players have talked about that I agree with is Profane Tutor's strength is by the time it's coming off suspend, you then know what you're going to grab, and then you can make the most of it, especially if it comes off when in a deck like this when you have 5 or 6 mana. You can have some really, really good turns by grabbing, you know, as mentioned here before, Hour of Promise or something else, or Open the Way, and immediately casting it to bring in a ton of advantage. Or, obviously, if we're in a situation where the pressure is on, being able to grab Toxic Deluge and cast that to defend ourselves, or any other removal, you know, like grabbing Nature's Claim to destroy Blood Moon and the like is going to be very, very good. Now, finally, there's the last card. This one is niche. This is very, very niche, but when we're in these kind of strategies and we're in green, I really like having Rift Sweeper. Rift Sweeper's entire thing is this is a backup card, once again, extra recursion for your combo. So if you follow my suggestions, and let's say you have both Field of the Dead and you have Maze's End, and players have exiled them either through, like, you know, graveyard removal, or just cards that, you know, exile a permanent, which is trickier to do but is possible, Rift Sweeper will put it back in your deck. And I really, really like that. It gives you one extra chance to try to go off again. It's really, really hard to interact with outside of counter magic. And because of the way your deck works, getting those cards again, especially with 9 fingers, is really, really easy. So very, very niche, but if you want to feel like it's never possible to fully take you out of the game, this is exactly the card that I would use. And that's going to be all my suggestions. Wow, this week's videos are all clocking in at under half an hour. I'm pretty happy with that. I think this is a very, very strong deck. I think this is a very fun deck, and I'm excited to see it again because I think it's just very, very good. There's a lot of things that we can do. There's a lot of different plays we can make. I will note, sorry, I'm looking at this, and I think one card that's kind of catching my eye is Dark Ritual, a card I usually really, really like. But if I just look at this, what can we cast with Dark Ritual on turn 1? And the answer is nothing. Now, that's not horrible because it does enable some really powerful early game stuff by turn 2 and turn 3. But I think it is notable that this card does nothing. But then again, maybe that's not a problem because all of our lands come in tapped. Like, not all of them, but like a large majority of our lands come in tapped. I will say we are also playing a lot of islands, and I feel like we don't need to be. I recognize that we are very much so mainly in gates, but I think you could probably get away with, since you have the budget, of turning these islands into some dual lands. I'm thinking the Czech lands, I'm thinking the Pain lands. I just don't think you need this many islands. Islands is a pretty low, blue is a pretty low commodity in this deck, and with all the ramp we have so many ways of getting it. So I'd like these islands, like, notice we got 6 forests, 6 island, 3 swamps, but when we look at the deck, that's not, I wonder if it's here, you know, 27%, but 47 of our mana, 23, and why is this 27? Oh, maybe it's because I want to cut the blue mana. Some of the blue cards, so maybe after cuts it's a little more even, but I do think it's notable that we do have a lot more black mana than green. At least maybe I'm just wrong because I want to cut that, so that's 1 out, that's 3 out total, 4 5 6, yeah, so 7 8, yeah. In my version, there'd be a lot less blue. And this might be a joke that Jesse gets because I do have a reputation of really disliking blue. I just don't think these are the blue cards. I don't think we stop playing blue, obviously. Like we have access to it, but like Cards like Tadiova, Consecrated Sphinx, Treasure Cruise even. I think these are much, obviously Guild Summit. These are very, very strong cards, and I want to keep those cards. But I do feel like some of the lower blue stuff is just not at the same power level as the rest of the deck. Okay, this time for sure I'm going to say I've finished up. If you'd like to send me another version of this deck, another draft, so we can improve it again, there's a link in the video description down below. And if you would like to bring that link, that list to the front of the queue, make it one of my donation decks, there's a link for that as well. Finally, if you could like, comment, subscribe, do that whole thing, I would be very, very grateful. Let's find that picture of Nine Fingers. There we go. Thank you so much, Jesse, for sending the deck. I'm really excited to see it again. I think it's a really, really fun deck. And I really want to see it because I just think this is very strong. And I want to see if I'm right. So I'm looking forward to playing against it, and good luck.